My name is Peng Huanhuan. I'm Chinese. I came from Sichuan Fine Arts Institute. My major is fashion design.
Hello everyone. I'm very glad to share my topic with you. My topic is Unfinishedism.
My thesis can be divided into 6 parts. Introduction, Chapter 1, Unfinished Art, Chapter 2, Unfinished Fashion, Chapter 3, My own designs towards unfinished fashion. Last is a conclusion and reference.
In the current foppish, money-oriented fashion industry, I see not only the high energy consumption and high waste of the traditional textile and garment industry,
but also the large-scale, low-cost purchase and the rapid discarding that the fast fashion culture highly admires, and very much distressed that people who pursue a healthy life have been misled into the wrong way of money worship, material enjoyment, mindless, and emptiness in today's pan-entertainment era. I boldly propose the concept of sustainable unfinishedism, that is, leaving development space and room for future generations.
Unfinishedism in art fields through correlation research.
Unfinished in art can be explained as incomplete, half-done, partial, fragmentary, uncompleted, and ongoing, or rough, bare, crude, natural, raw, and unrefined. So unfinished art includes several kinds of unfinished process or possibilities. I divided it into deliberate unfinishedism and unplanned unfinishedism. A case in sculpture field, Venus di Milo, who stands gracefully without her arms, has become the one which is most well known. Another case in music field, unfinished symphony, Schubert's Eighth, but just because the unfinished sketches of the third and fourth movement contrast with his most cherished compositions, it becomes more well known than other finished symphonies. From modernism to postmodernism focus on searching for the case of deliberate unfinishedism. Many people may think that the unfinished concept comes from postmodernism, but actually it exists in modernism. A good example comes from the exhibition in Washington, D.C., 2001, with the National Gallery of Arts exhibition, The Unfinished Print, which investigates the question of artistic resolution in European printmaking from the 15th to the early 20th century. Rembrandt made etchings as sketch sheets to interest patrons in his work. Often the images were unfinished, such as old man shielding his eye with his hand. Compared to modernism, postmodernism explores more aesthetical possibilities, embraces broader hybrid cultures, and publicizes self-consciousness and individuality. Its indeterminacy and extent mature and grow the unfinished concept towards more freedom and latitude. There are several postmodernist characteristics such as fragmentation, deconstruction, improvisation, ad hocism, process, and participation, often inducing the unfinished concept. A good example is coming from the window display of Harvey Nichols in London. All fragmentary pieces of old reliefs and the latest short-killed accessories were mixed together, twisted time and space. Unfinishedism opposes life as a process, art as a process, fashion as a process. The other window display from Harvey Nichols is a case of showing the laying process. Deliberately exposing tape and fixing tools gives people a sense of thing being decorated.
The second part focus on the unfinishedism concept in fashion design according to my professional direction.
As far as my research has uncovered, there are some styles in fashion which have a close relation with unfinished style. I suggest two main relatives. One is punk fashion, the other is deconstruction fashion. Unfinished fashion intentionally remains some untreated materials or incompleted parts on the garments as a display of the design process, or leaves a follow-up creative space for the garment to have a variety of open-style wearing methods or multifunction. It leaves the recreative or co-creative potentiality on the unfinished parts for the customers. I will exemplify designers' works to outline the applications and development of unfinished fashion. In this section, I classify 3 kinds of unfinished fashion. Each kind has its own emphasis. The first category is a very straightforward unfinished fashion. Designers directly leave the unfinished details on the garments. The second group takes the unfinished process to the stage, and then it will be finished during the performance. Those 2 examples let the audience witness various interesting processes of dyeing clothes, thinking about the relationship between the fashion dyeing with unfinished concept and the wearer's movement. The last kind of unfinished fashion goes into the stage of consumers' lives. Consumers can co-design the garment rather than accepting the finished garments passively. From designers, they not only fulfill their own design concept, but also leaving space to satisfy people's participation desires.
The third part is my own design towards unfinished fashion. I systematically classify and develop the possibility of unfinishedism in all stages of fashion creation.
Designers have to know every process of how to make a garment. Each step of making helps the design concept realization. Through research and practice, a variety of clothes have been designed under the concept of unfinishedism. On the steps of sketches and design drawings, designers deliberately miss the lines, some parts of the details, and maybe only finish the focus. It usually has stronger aesthetic value than finishing all design details. As in freehand Chinese painting, there are often deliberate omissions of white space. I have drawn some unfinished illustrations to uncover the aesthetic contrast points. From the initial stage of selecting fabrics, unfinished features can emerge with fragmented materials, old and new, waste materials, recycling, improvisation materials at hand, not deliberately selected and matched. Reserved use of materials, original germ cloth or yarn juxtaposing with a final material, mismatching or dislocating fabrics, and so on. In this stage, I have an experimental study on the use of waste materials and eco-environmental protection materials. I use discarded corn silk made of nature air-dry corn silk fur coat, like animal fur, warm and healthy, hyperallergenic, with a light corn fragrance. Then, in the pattern cutting design stage, unfinished characteristics usually attach to dislocation and deconstruction of conventional structures, multifunctional and variable common structure design, and misappropriating some pieces of patterns. My exploration in the part is to design a multifunctional dress with a cope. Its hemline structure is a changeable double-deck design, which combines different style and dual functions of flower bed dress and short dress. Thirdly, the sewing stage is the most straightforward way to display unfinished facets. For example, expose rough stitches, roll edges, patch the pockets upside down, or distort the inner pockets outside. Leave the close seam open, partly overlocking, edging, piping, partly attaching collar, sleeves, and fittings. I did some experiments on garment parts and details to show the unfinished sewing process, as shown below. Fourthly, the decorating stage mostly presents unfinished looks as incomplete decorations. Either embroidery, patchwork, beading, trimming, brilling out, or hand painting, wax dyeing, embossing, cutting out, or partly finish the patterns, or miss parts intentionally. This not only saves the working procedure, but also makes it more interesting and lively than the full decoration. I experimented some symbols in this stage, such as dislocated pockets, changeable flounce, fragmentary colors. Fifthly, the finishing processes, which includes thread cutting, buttonholing, buttoning, washing, ironing, and packing, often uses unconventional methods or revealing ways according to the unfinished spirit. The attributes are usually regarded as keeping thread ends, partly ironing and partly wrinkling, mis-ironing, loose buttoning, partially buttonholing, etc. Finally, the unfinished concept comes to the conception stage. They are often demonstrated as variability of the silhouette, flex of the patterns and colors, and multi-functionality. I have a new idea regarding plant-dyed fashion with variable color patterns. I'm just developing one kind of shirt, which secretly contains some dye color powder in their seams, darts, and piping. Whenever a customer washes a shirt, the color will mark a little around the seams and the darts. The interesting thing about this shirt is that the random change of the dyeing pattern is related to the way the user washes, twists, and dries, and hangs in the air. In addition, recently I have an experiment to link the unfinished concept in several aspects of clothing design and production. I try to use a whole fabric as far as possible without cutting the waste materials to complete a garment, and make it change a variety of style and multi-function. Every piece of clothing in this experiment can be restored to the original square fabric after being laid flat. This magical and interesting feature also enables the group of clothing images to show the dynamic change process of fashion design from plain structure to three-dimensional wear, so that fashion design does not end because of wear, but because of wear and truly open the design journey. I named this series of clothes as Zero Waste and Multi-Purpose Dresses.
The conclusion extends Unfinishedism to non-artistic disciplines such as philosophy, psychology, ecology, and human development to analyze the significance of its existence.
Any city, any culture, any genre of art is built up by the past civilizations, including theories and practices. Likewise, the conception of Unfinishedism is formed by extracting many ideas, concepts, and theories from modernism, postmodernism, and their subsystems, and at the same time using the abundance of practices of a wide variety of people. Finished and unfinished exist relatively according to the time and space. From an ecological and human development view, if there is more chance of changing and developing garments, just like the multifunction dress in Unfinishedism, then there will be less need for endlessly throwing garments away, which is so wasteful in resources and environment. In this respect, Unfinishedism can be interpreted as a healthy and inspired lifestyle, which is not only producing fashionable garments, but also taking care of nature and human development. Unfinishedism reminds people today not to consume natural resources uncontrollably, not to occupy land resources indefinitely, and not to destroy ecological resources fearlessly. Just as research is ongoing, the more the unfinished concept can be found in every aspect of our life. This thesis is just a stage of my research process. I have an enthusiasm for this topic. I hope this is an unfinished topic which not only records my own research but also has a capacity for more people to add their wisdom and passion onto it. We can enrich it continuously, endlessly.
It's my honor to share my topic with you. Thank you for listening.